We've all heard the whispers, the late-night documentaries, the clickbait headlines about the supervolcano lurking beneath Yellowstone, a ticking time bomb poised to plunge the world into a volcanic winter. It's a terrifying thought, a beast of geologic proportions that captures our imagination and our fears. But what if I told you that while we've been nervously watching Yellowstone, history holds the story of an eruption that makes Yellowstone's potential look like a firecracker? What if the biggest, most catastrophic geological event in the last 2 million years has already happened, and it wasn't in Wyoming? Forget what you think you know about supervolcanoes. We're going on a journey back in time about 74,000 years ago to a place in present-day Indonesia. We're going to uncover the story of a cataclysm so immense it nearly wiped humanity off the face of the earth. This is the story of the Toba super-eruption, the unsung giant, the true king of cataclysms. This event didn't just shake the ground. It rewrote the planet's climate and pushed our ancient ancestors to the absolute brink of extinction. The evidence is hidden in layers of ancient ash spread across the globe, in the silent stories told by our own DNA, and in the massive serene lake that now fills the scar left behind. So, what exactly was Toba? Imagine the largest volcanic eruption you can. Now, multiply that by 1,000. We're talking about an event that spewed out nearly 3,000 cubic kilometers of rock and ash into the atmosphere. To put that in perspective, the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens, which was a major event, produced about 1 cubic kilometer of material. Toba was almost 3,000 times bigger. The eruption column would have rocketed more than 40 kilometers into the sky, deep into the stratosphere, where the ash and sulfur gases could be carried by high-altitude winds across the entire planet. This wasn't just a regional disaster. It was a global one. A blanket of ash, in some places several meters thick, covered a vast area, stretching from the South China Sea all the way to the Arabian Sea. It's been found in ice cores from Greenland, clear on the other side of the world. The immediate aftermath would have been apocalyptic for anything living within hundreds of kilometers, but the long-term effects were even more sinister. The sheer volume of sulfur dioxide blasted into the stratosphere would have formed a veil of sulfuric acid aerosols, reflecting sunlight back into space. The result? A volcanic winter. Global temperatures plummeted by an estimated 3 to 5 degrees Celsius, and some models suggest it could have been as much as 15 degrees in higher latitudes. This wasn't just a cold snap. This was a decade-long deep freeze, followed by centuries of a cooler, harsher climate. Monsoons in Asia likely failed. Rainfall patterns shifted dramatically and ecosystems across the globe were thrown into chaos. Forests died back, grasslands withered, and the animals that depended on them starved. It was a planetary reset button, and our ancestors were caught right in the middle of it. This brings us to one of the most debated and fascinating theories in human prehistory, the Toba Catastrophe Theory, first proposed in 1998 by Stanley Ambrose. It suggests that this massive volcanic winter created a population bottleneck. The idea is that the global environmental collapse decimated food sources and made survival incredibly difficult for the small, scattered bands of early modern humans. As a result, the human population may have crashed to as few as 3,000 to 10,000 individuals. Think about that. The entire human species, reduced to the size of a small town. We came perilously close to extinction. The evidence for this bottleneck comes partly from genetics. When we look at the DNA of people around the world today, we find that we are remarkably similar genetically speaking. We have less genetic diversity than many other primate species like chimpanzees. This suggests that at some point in our past, our ancestors went through an event where the population was drastically reduced, and all of us today are descended from that small group of survivors. The timing of this genetic bottleneck seems to coincide intriguingly with the Toba eruption, around 70,000 years ago. Now, this theory is not without its critics. Some archaeologists point to evidence in places like Africa and India that suggests human populations, while impacted, were resilient and survived the Toba event without such a dramatic crash. They argue that our ancestors were clever, adaptable, and had the social and technological skills, like creating better tools and stronger social networks, to weather the storm. Perhaps they found refuge in coastal areas or other microclimates that were less affected. The debate is ongoing, and it's a perfect example of how science works, constantly testing and refining our understanding of the past. But whether Toba caused a near-extinction event or was simply a massive hurdle that our ancestors brilliantly overcame, its impact is undeniable. It was a defining moment in human history. Imagine being one of those survivors. You would have witnessed the sky turning dark for years, felt the relentless cold, and watched the world you knew wither and die. The struggle for food, for warmth, for sheer survival would have been unimaginable. Those who made it through must have been the most resourceful, the most cooperative, the most resilient among us. In a very real way, the legacy of Toba might be written into our very nature. The spirit of survival and ingenuity that allowed us to endure and eventually repopulate the entire planet. So where is Toba today? If you were to visit the site of this ancient apocalypse in Sumatra, Indonesia, you wouldn't find a menacing, smoking mountain. Instead, you'd find one of the most beautiful and tranquil places on Earth, Lake Toba. The lake fills the massive caldera, the collapsed crater, left behind by the eruption. It's the largest volcanic lake in the world, over 100 kilometers long and 30 kilometers wide, and up to 500 meters deep. In the middle of the lake is Samosir Island, a resurgent dome, which is the uplifted floor of the caldera, pushed up by magma slowly reaccumulating deep below. That's right. Toba is not extinct. It's dormant. The magma chamber that fueled the last super-eruption is still there, slowly and silently refilling. Geologists monitor it closely, of course, but the chances of another Toba-sized eruption in our lifetime, or even in the next few thousand years, are exceedingly small. These events operate on geological timescales that are difficult for us to comprehend. Nevertheless, the serene beauty of Lake Toba serves as a powerful and humbling reminder of the immense power simmering just beneath our feet. It's a paradise born from an apocalypse. So, while the world keeps one eye on Yellowstone, it's worth remembering the lessons of Toba. It teaches us about the fragility of our planet's climate and the resilience of life. It reminds us that our civilization exists at the mercy of immense geological forces that we are only just beginning to understand. The story of Toba isn't just a dramatic tale from the deep past. It's a story about us. It's the story of our ancestors' greatest challenge and their ultimate triumph. We are the descendants of the survivors of the volcanic winter. It's a legacy of endurance that we all share. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into Earth's explosive past. It is a stark reminder that our planet's history is far more dramatic than we can imagine. If you found this as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more deep dives into the mysteries of our world. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.